Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining Boldline. I'm so excited about my guest this morning, Jason Chepenik. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Pam. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I have known you for a number of years since I've been here at CareerSource Central Florida, but you are also a dear friend and such an amazing expert in financial planning and retirement and community, really. But I learned something about you that I'm curious. I think I know now that it's not still true. So I heard a rumor that before COVID, you never used Amazon or any online shopping services. Is that true?
This is true. I can't believe that's what you asked me. But yes, Pam, it is true that I never bought, not just Amazon, I never bought one thing ever online. And it wasn't until during the pandemic that somebody said, Jason, in fact, my kid's like, Dad, just go online and buy it. And the next day I got a thing of, whatever it was, like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. And it didn't take too many times to become
What
addicted to
what
that.
was your hesitation, or did you just didn't have time?
No, I'm a guy who likes to go in the store. Like when I'm shopping, I do like fashion. I do like to buy new glasses and clothes. I
I
like to
love the
look
glasses.
around. And I was like, I like to walk in. And somehow this was a thing of mine that I was going to go the anti online and just stick around. But what I didn't realize is truly the convenience of like basic goods and services and also time element that, hey, things are busy. You can, in fact, it's okay to go online, buy something and let it show up the next day is actually a great thing. But for
Right.
some reason,
How
I
how
didn't do
many
it.
packages a day now?
Oh, well, today I'm expecting 3. So how about that? But my coffee broke,
Love it.
my coffee machine broke, and then I'm traveling to a frigid area and I didn't have my proper gloves. So I had to, get some things. So
Yeah, it's just way too convenient. So you're right, you're right. Well, I'm glad that you finally come over to the dark side and joined us all with the online shopping. But in your day job, in your day career, day to day, you are an amazing expert in financial planning and retirement plans and programs. You've been a great asset to us here in our organization. So tell us a little bit about you and your career over the course of your involvement with financial planning.
sure, yes. So again, I'm Jason Chepenik. I live in Orlando. I actually live in Winter Park, but I've been doing this a long time. My father was a financial planner, and as I was a little kid, I always knew that I wanted to work with my father. And so my father was actually an insurance agent who did some investment planning and some benefit planning for companies. And I sort of always knew that one day I would end up working alongside him. So it was always in the back of my head since I was little. In fact, I even have an article that is floating around somewhere that when I was 7 years old, I wrote an article for his company that said I wanted to be an insurance man. Pam, I'll find it and send it to you.
Oh,
It's
that is
true
very
too.
cool.
It says that I could visit the firehouses because my dad would write programs for firefighters and that you can make $200 a month. And I thought $200 a week was too much, which is why I chose $200 a month. It seemed reasonable at the time. Thank goodness I was wrong on this one. But I will tell you that really for a long time, I was a finance major at school. I went to Tulane. When I graduated, I worked for IBM for a few years selling
Mhm.
systems. I didn't really know how to sell at that point in time, but I learned how, and it really come down to relationships and working with people and understanding what their goals and objectives were. And then after IBM, I joined an investment firm called Legg Mason, where my father did say, if you're going to work with me, I would like for you to have 5 years of experience working somewhere else.
Mhm.
And it was a true financial and investment planning shop. And very quickly, I started working with a 401k plan. And it's complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces parts. And in fact, in many ways, it's more complicated than just traditional investment management for a family.
Mhm.
But I liked it. I was really good at seeing the complexity and translating it to something very basic for my client or prospective client. And that got me excited that I understood how it all operated. And I loved asking questions. I would drive everybody nuts because I'd ask tons of questions and they knew me as the guy who would ask questions. But over time, there's a good lesson in there that if you really want to understand something really deeply and have deep knowledge of it, and then you want to be seen as the expert, you really have to understand how it all works. And so I was never afraid of asking questions or having the courage to try new things, and started building this 401k business up. And I was working harder than a lot of my friends who were in the wealth business, and said, there was a Jason, you're working too hard. Fast forward, and I ended up having a lot of them. And the keys were pretty simple. I could access a lot more people through a 401k plan or a 403b plan, and help 100 people or 1,000 people versus helping just one person at a time. And there are a lot of people that entered that business and only did it part-time. And I felt at that moment, if I spent full-time in that space, at least most of my time, I could do a lot more work and really build this really strong team around and help people with the basics. And that is save as much as you can and not have debt. And those are the two things it takes to get to retirement. Too many people get caught up over what are the investments I should pick. If you don't have any money, it doesn't matter what investments you pick. Or they worry about fees. And if you don't have any money, fees don't matter either. It's all about two things. Save as much as you can and not have debt, and teach people basic skills. And I love that. At the end of the day, I was a teacher. I've got one little story for you that
Okay.
me excited, which is I remember sitting in 8th grade and junior achievement came in my class. And I know you're on the board of junior achievement. So I
Yes.
work there too.
Yes.
And it was a financial advisor. It was a money manager came in, and they described their career and how they helped people. And that was the other thing that connected the dot back to me to that place, and said, you know what, I think I want to be in that business. I remember going home and telling my parents I want to be a money manager. And so those programs, those interactions with other community people, or some mentor, somebody older that says, hey, this is how I built my career, they do stick. And they impact people. It doesn't matter where you are in life. It impacted me, and now look where I am.
Well, I know that you are very passionate about saving for retirement and plans, around 401k and 403b, which we have here at CareerSource. I also know that you are extraordinarily creative about reaching people about the importance of saving. Something I remember about creating a campaign around a taco truck.
This is true. It's like I have done a lot of fun things in my career.
Yes.
And as I mentioned, like, I'm not afraid of trying new things. In fact, I think it's really important that my team always come up with an idea, no matter how silly it is. And one day we said, let's have a taco truck, and we'll call it the Taco About Retirement food truck. And if an employee signed up for the retirement plan, they got a free taco. And if not, they got rice and beans, because that's all they could afford to eat in retirement. And it took off. And it was like my silliest idea ever. And yet I recognized something magic in there, which is if you can make people laugh, you're given enough space to say, actually, the key is just save a little extra. Try to manage your debt. And if people get too anxious around, what's my selection? How do I set up for the program? What investments do I pick? Am I saving enough? We, as professionals, or my team, or any financial advisor, can help you with the other parts that you have to decide on. The most important part is the personal decision of, I'm going to save. And I'm going to also manage the back end, which is my debt, because the difference between somebody making a lot of money and the ability to retire and the person who makes a lot less, it actually isn't how much money you make. It's managing debt. When you get to retirement, you don't want to have any obligations to anybody. You want to have the freedom to travel and have fun, or stay at home, or volunteer. And the albatross that can keep you from doing many of those things is, in fact, debt.
Yes. And I've really appreciated your work with us at CareerSource. We have, over 250 individuals, and you and your team have really brought the message about saving, and also eliminating or reducing debt, how important that is. What are the challenges that you see with the different, ages of populations that we have in the workplace now, with people getting involved and investing in retirement plans? What are some of the challenges? And you talked about the creative ways that you're approaching them, but how do we appeal to people in the midst of young family life or first jobs, if they're young adults, to understand why it's so important to save and to not get into debt?
Well, I think it's a great question, Pam. I will tell you that I think you have to meet people where they are. I think being relevant in my messaging or conversation is important. You know, younger people today, they have so many things going for them. They don't see the world that perhaps we do in some ways, and they don't even think about the word retirement. It should be
Right.
retired. They think about an experience, and they think about
Mhm.
living today. And there's a lot of lessons we can learn in that work-life balance that many of us just worked really hard because it was fun and fulfilling. We work
Mhm.
because if it's a fun and fulfilling career, it doesn't feel like work, right?
Right.
Passion, and
Right.
it's easy. I think if those exist, it doesn't feel like work. But a lot of younger people haven't experienced that yet. And so it's a job. And so they balance that job with, hey, I'm going to have an experience. So helping that person save for that experience is also critically important. And having
Mhm.
the support from their plan sponsor or the employer to say, you know what, that's cool too. Save for that experience because it keeps you jazzed up. So the energy to focus on something else personally and professionally will keep you going. I think there are others, though, that have been in the sandwich generation where they're taking care of their parents or
Right.
having their parents like, hey, having to navigate the hardships of what happens later in life where they need
Mhm.
help or an assisted living or just need help in general, financial help or health needs. Their challenges and they're stressed. And so having somebody to talk to, it becomes as much therapist and say, hey, here's how you work through all these different things. There's also other ones in the middle that are saving too much for their kids' college because they either didn't have that experience in their parents or just had a dream that they want to cover their kids' college. I love my kids too. I think it can also be danger zone that you're sacrificing your own financial future to make sure your kids go through college when there's access to more money than ever in the history of our country for higher
Mhm.
education. And I think if I can help somebody, each of those environments talk through what is the things they're thinking about at night and how are they making decisions. The hardest part is slowing down and then mapping out what you want to do, which means, really pull out a piece of paper and say, tell me about what you're looking to accomplish, or make a video of, hey, these are the things that I want to do. Once you say it out loud or write it
Mhm.
down, then I can hold you accountable or we can hold each other accountable. And as a financial planner, my team or I can do the math to help you figure out, well, here's what you should be saving. Here's how to save it, right? And then we have a checkpoint. We now have something written down or a video that says your goals, and we can come revisit it every couple of years. How are we doing towards that goal? And we can laugh about it. Gee, remember your goal was this, and 3 years later, now your goal has changed. But I
Mhm.
think it's about accountability. It's about personal accountability. It's really easy to drop a credit card down and do something, think, you know what, I'll figure it out later. That's the danger zone. It's no different than anything else we experience in life, but this is the part that if I can do a good job, it's teaching them to not be attracted by the credit card and
Yeah.
figure it out later.
Yeah, absolutely. A career source, we also, as a business ourselves, we also work with a lot of other small businesses. And, one of the things that employees now in this very tight labor market are looking for are not just great wages, but also the compensation packages around wages. And to your point, the experiences that they are able to still have, like days off and such. For small businesses thinking about adding retirement programs, what are some advantages that they may want to consider, as they think about if that's something that they can do, and how about if they feel like it's just too expensive for them to do that? What are your thoughts on sort of the business side, Jason?
Also, great question. Things have changed a lot in the last few years. A lot of it with some help from Washington and from elected officials, whereas they recognize that something like 60 million Americans don't have access to a workplace savings program. So the last few years has been a lot of effort to reduce the cost of entry into a retirement plan,
Mhm.
including tax credits for an employer who's setting up a plan for the first time. So in addition to the tax savings and tax deductions you get from putting away a company match or paying expenses, there are now
Mhm.
tax credits available for a small employer, even larger employers, to save money into a plan. I think those
Oh,
can be
excellent.
considered. And there's another grouping of plans idea, which is one is called a group of plans. The other one is
Mhm.
called a pooled employer plan, where you're taking a bunch of common companies, mushing them together for the purpose of having one plan, same investments, but you have an
Mhm.
advisor looking at those. But each person can have their own plan design, but you're trying to share the cost across multiple companies, and it's really working. I mean, it's really, really working. And so I think for those people that looked 5 years ago and said it's too expensive, if they looked again, they'd be wowed at how the cost have dropped considerably to enter a workplace savings firm, and the complexity and the compliance, all the fear stuff, like the anxiety of if I make a mistake, I run into trouble. There's also, we've hit the easy button. There's a lot of easy buttons now in our business that make it easier to enter the plan, easier to operate, and if you make a mistake, easier to fix.
So Jason, can we just do your answer? Sorry, I have a brand new phone and I didn't know how to shut it off. So Doug, are we good to start the answer again?
And you can
absolutely. Yep.
So do you remember the question?
No problem.
Question about why should businesses consider taking on retirement plans?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, so go ahead.
Oh, well, first of all, the last many years has been so much effort to allow for small businesses to have access to a retirement plan. In fact, there's a lot of effort by elected officials to come up with programs, because there's still something like 60 million Americans do not have access to a workplace savings programs. It's not right. And so what can we do to make it easier, bring the costs down, get rid of the compliance issues, or even the risk factors of, gee, if I make a mistake, what happens to my plan? So now there's a lot of easy buttons that exist. There's a lot of easy ways into the plan. There are tax credits available now to start a new plan, not just a tax deduction for the fees or a match, but an additional tax credit for an employer to start up a program. And there's now this idea of grouping of plans where you can team up with a group of peers, or a lot of advisory firms like ours have a program that a lot of companies can join the same plan to bring the cost down. It's the same investment options, but there's a lot of flexibility. The whole idea is, we need to make it easy for small companies or mid-sized companies to start a new plan and not be scared of it. If they haven't checked in a while, it'll be dramatically, it's just, it's night and day. We really have focused on helping the small employer set up a plan for their employees. And, and there's also, and financial advisors aren't afraid of it either. There's no plan that's too small anymore. There are ways to do this by working with different advisory firms. We all have what we call a small market solution that's for small plans.
That's excellent, because I think it's such an amazing tool to recruit employees in this tight labor market. So, it really benefits both the company and the employee, short-term and long-term. You mentioned earlier some of your passion around working with young adults, and you and I serve on the Junior Achievement Board. I know you are extraordinarily passionate about financial literacy programs, and you created a very unique, inspiring marathon, basically, about financial literacy for young adults. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks. So I told you, anybody should focus on any idea and try to lift it up. I mean, I'm really fortunate to have, I have a lot of ideas. I'm up in the middle of the night a lot thinking about ideas. Some are really bad, Pam. That's a separate podcast full of Jason's bad ideas. But
we'll do that one.
I've had some good ideas too. And one of them was I started the 401k race for financial fitness. Instead of a 5K, it was a 401k. And the idea was, if you can run at a 10-minute mile, you're running going pretty fast. If you can save at a 10% pace, then you're also saving a lot of money for your future. And there's a lot of connectivity between taking your time, but being consistent in running and stretching yourself a little bit first. And it just became a fun way to promote a wellness event. And if you're going to live a long time because you're healthy, you have to have enough money to last you a long time.
That's right.
And one way to also, to help physical well-being, right, and mental well-being is exercise, as well as it's a good financial well-being exercise too.
Yes.
Some money. So, but as I think about things like the 401k race for junior achievement, I do think about wellness in general. That wellness isn't just about physicality or mental or spiritual. I think about community well-being. And I do say a lot to my peers that if my community is not healthy, neither am I. There's a lot of, you work in the nonprofit sector, you see all these hidden areas, and some are hidden in plain sight in terms of very challenging places that our communities has, and some people don't realize how important the community keeping it together is to your day-to-day life. And I also, as an employer and as a steward of the community, right, the happiest employees, the most productive employees are those that volunteer. So I believe in it too. I meet the coolest people, the people that are also passionate. Hopefully it attracts great people to my company. We produce better work product because we're happy. And I think it's a big part of happiness is giving back. My newest thing, by the way, I get to
Yeah.
drop
So I
it.
was just going to ask
Pam.
you what was in the future for you
No,
and
the newest
retirement
thing is
planning.
focusing on 4 key things. So you ready? It's invest. I'm sorry, it's ready. I didn't got it wrong out of the gate. How about that's how new it is. So save as much as you can.
Hmm.
Invest in your total well-being. It's that important, right? Seeing family and friends is important.
Hmm.
Um, give back in terms of helping your community, give money or volunteer time. And invest, save, and give. I think are the key things that I want to sort of have people focus around. I think it's too much focus, in my opinion, on which investments to pick, and too much focus on what fees you're paying, and not let's focus on the fun stuff, which is save as much as you can, yes, but make sure you're saving money for not just a rainy day, but you're saving money for an experience. Have fun. It is an important part of living.
Yes.
Right? I think it's important to right, to manage your money wisely, and I think it's important to spend time in the community and teach others that it's a healthy place to do. I mean, I meet
Yeah.
tremendous people, and it adds value to my life. And you and I get to hang out because we're not just doing work professionally, but we become friends
I
and
know.
we do stuff personally. We do stuff in the community that has nothing to do with our own professional careers. It's just giving back and helping others.
You absolutely create a community family really by being a part of that. But I love the save, invest, give. Was there a fourth? Did you
Yeah,
say
it was
four
before
keys?
spend. And
Spend.
it's so
Oh, well,
new.
that's fun too.
It's so new that I like it. It's actually save, spend, invest, and give. So save as much as you can, spend time with friends and family, invest in your total well-being,
I
and
love it.
give back. It's important. And also, again, as a professional, you've got people, coworkers or employers that are, when you go to look for talent, that too is a hard thing. I
Hmm.
want to look for the person that also takes their volunteer time, their own personal time and gives back. Um, so when you think about a young person who's looking for a job,
Yes.
or you've got kids looking for a job, I tell you, I actually will always rank the person's resume that has volunteerism on their resume above somebody who doesn't. Even if
Hmm.
you've got a lot of professional credentials, I think that's really important. But I think it's also equally as important as that. By the way, I also believe that having a career path in trade is just as valuable as having a career path in where you go to university. I'm sorry, where you go to college. And I think there's too much focus on college as the end game.
I think it's not college anymore. It's getting credentialed or getting education beyond high school, but being able to your point, being able to spend the time with your family, but spend what you need, save what you can, give back how you can, and then invest not just your money but your time wisely in like you were saying, really having a well-rounded experience in life and with your family and with your job. So I know you are an incredible asset to us at CareerSource Central Florida. I want to ask you one last question, because I know you are a world traveler and I am like trying to become a world traveler. But where are you planning to travel this year? Because I know you also have a couple kids in
Yes,
schools around the country, and but I'm sure you
I
have something cooked up.
I have a long list all the time. I am going to Anguilla and I'm going to St. Bart's in a couple months to do that. I've never
Nice.
done that, but I've been thinking a lot about Japan. Like I want to go to Japan. It's also in terms of as a financial advisor, from
Yeah.
a cost perspective, it's the lowest cost to go right now in like 35 years. And so
Wow.
because of the yen to dollar. So Japan is on the list. I also have never been to Colombia. So my list goes on and on and on. It's also a healthy thing for me to think about what else I want to do. And it's not just travel, it's also new hobbies. So Pam, I'm about to let the whole world know on this one that a
Yay.
couple weeks ago I started tap dancing. I've been thinking about it. I've
Really?
been thinking about it for 30 years. So I signed up for beginner tap dance class at the Orlando Ballet. There's a drop-in class, and so I said, you know what, I'm gonna go. And right now I'm terrible at it, but it's exhilarating, it's fun, it's rewarding, it's just as stimulating to my brain that, hey, you know what, I'm doing something I've been thinking about for 30 years. And I signed up for a pottery class, which starts at Frialdi, which starts soon. So using our community resources, Orlando Valley
Yes.
is awesome, Frialdi is awesome, and it's okay. Like, do what makes you happy, and I think that you meet other cool people,
Yeah.
and it's fun. So I'm doing those two things this year as new hobbies.
I have to find out about the tap dancing because, like you, so I've actually in my youth shuffleball changed a few times, but I have not for decades and decades. So I'll have to talk to you
I
more
will. It's a Sunday
about
morning
that
class, drop-in
experience.
class. Come on, and I'm
Okay, all
just
right.
learning the
I love
shuffleboard
it.
change. It is
So
it's hard, but
I,
I can do it.
I'm fascinated. That is really, really cool. So before I let you go, though, I would love for you to tell our listeners how to find you and about One Digital.
Oh, well, One Digital, we're actually focused on both employee benefits, retirement, and wealth services. You go to onedigital.com and learn all about us. I am located in downtown Orlando, and I'm Jason Chepenik. I'm pretty easy to find, as there's only a handful of Chepniks in this town, and you can track me down. But you can also go back to Pam, and she can connect you with me. And no, the
Absolutely.
key for me is, I'll leave you this last one, that I believe that the world is round, and it's important to be a net giver. And a net giver means share an idea, share a thought, share time with somebody. And that goes a long way. Even if you don't get that back right away, it does come back at some point in time. So I try to teach my kids and others that. Be a net giver. Same thing. Anybody in this listen to the podcast needs some help on shuffleball change. I'm not sure I can help you in that one, but certainly just to laugh, or hey, here's a book I'm reading, or do this or that. I'd be happy to spend time with you.
Well, you are an amazing gem, and thank you so much for being a part of the Boldline podcast. And we'll see you soon with the next episode. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.